Jimmy's Old Time Radio Show with a video to give a shout out to my top 10 senior living venues, the places where I visited and entertained the most. Thank you very much. I've been entertaining seniors for about 11 years. This analysis takes us to the conclusion of my 2021 concert series and is my most recent statistics. And it's also taken here at the beginning of another pandemic layoff, sadly. Actually, I've been laid off for a while. I haven't performed for 6 weeks now, and it'll be at least another month until I do. But I'm looking forward to padding these statistics just as soon as I can. But for now, I'm looking back on the 448 facilities that I've enjoyed visiting so far, and I'll be commenting about those in the top 10 list. I should start by saying there are more than 10 facilities in my top 10 list, as there are 3 tied for number 10, 3 more tied for number 7, 2 more again tied for number 4, meaning in my top 10 list there are actually 15. These 15 venues out of 448 total represent only 3.3% of all the places I've performed concerts, but those 3.3% represent 22.9% of my shows. So almost a quarter of my shows are thanks to those on this list. Added together, they account for 478 shows out of the 2,088 senior living concerts I've played so far. All of my venues on this list are in my home province of Ontario, and all but one are within a close radius to home for obvious reasons. Those nearby should be the ones that I play the most, but not always. The most distant in my top 10 list is 201 kilometers from home. And indeed, not all of my nearby venues are frequently visited, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And for comparison's sake, before we start, there are 174 facilities where I've only played one show. Those are dotted all across the map of Canada. There's many more that I've visited 2 or 3 or 4 times and so on. I try to reach distant facilities as often as I can. I do love touring. It seems to be getting harder all the time, and I just canceled another major tour, sadly. So here is a snapshot from my database showing the 15 facilities in my top 10 list. The main reason why these statistics are important to me is that repeated visits create a relationship between the residents and I. I shouldn't need to explain how important repeated visits are at this stage of your residents' lives, but I will say, though, I've observed time and again the spark that is found in that moment of recognition and remembrance by your residents. When I walk into the room, it's like an old friend has come to visit. So it's more than just a music program. Regular visits are a holistic experience for your residents, and it shouldn't be undervalued. Now a look at my top venues with a few words about each, as obviously they are all special. First on the list, in a 3-way tie for number 10, is Caressant Care in Arthur, with 22 concerts. I've known a few managers there over the years, all of them excellent, thankfully. All of them allowing for repeated visits, always organized and prepared, always with payments ready, that's a bonus. Always with volunteers there ready to jump in and help. From what I've seen, Caressant Care in Arthur is very well run, which is why they make the top 10 list, and similar accolades could be given to anyone on this list. Next is Eden House, not far from Guelph, Ontario, also tied at number 10 with 22 shows. I've worked at length with 3 managers there. Each, again, has been fantastic, providing repeated visits. And I just met the 4th manager just this past Christmas season. Only played 1 show for her so far. I should say that these repeated visits don't go unnoticed by residents. I've come to know many of the residents at Eden House over the years, and I remember them commenting about how nice it was for us to see each other again. And so this building of a relationship is a running theme in our little study of my top senior living venues. Also, with 22 shows, is Trillium Court in Beachside, Kincardine, the 3rd to be tied at number 10. They have one of my favorite rooms. It's wide and long and tall, apartments all around the space. It's a really nice layout, always wonderfully decorated. They even have a resident dog aptly named Lucky. Such a big area is great for social distancing in times like these. And I have personal fond memories there. I've brought my kids a few times, and then afterwards we'd go to the beach. In all these years, it was the same manager until recently, just retired. One of her staff, I'm told, have assumed the role, and I look forward to visiting again, hopefully soon. And I'm grateful I don't have to reintroduce myself. The new manager knows me well. Counting down, Central Place in Owen Sound comes in at number 9 with 23 concerts over the past decade. Always very warm, very welcoming, very comfortable, very fun. You have great staff. They're so excellent with the residents. And I learned a valuable lesson once at Central Place. A resident asked about some songs. He requested Harbor Lights and Could I Have This Dance? And I promptly learned them, and I was going to play them at my next show. It was a couple months later, but it was too late. The resident that requested them was unable to attend, and he was never in my audience again. So from that lesson, I've learned to always do my best to try to learn requests as quickly as I can, preferably have them ready for the next show. I always try to write them down, print them off, take them home, learn them, and make a note in my schedule as to what to play where. I always say my repertoire is built upon the requests of seniors themselves, and it's probably a big reason why I have a list like this. Anyway, Braemar in Wingham, Ontario, comes in at number 8 with 24 concerts. Obviously, I've been a regular there too, typically 4 or 5 shows a year, which is a good amount for familiarity and for delivering requests. Sadly, I've only been there once since the pandemic, though. I need to reintroduce myself to whoever is running the programs now. There's been some turnover there. Lots of fond memories, though. I look forward to renewing my relationship with your residents. Bay Haven and Collingwood begins the three-way tie for number 7 on this list with 27 shows each. Their numbers might have been higher, though, even top 5, but for some big swings in their management styles. I'm working now with the 3rd and 4th managers there. They have 2 currently, one on each side, retirement and long-term care. It was the first manager there that I knew who booked me, though, for concerts almost every month for 3 years, at least every other month. That was fantastic, and I really had a good relationship with residents. But then she moved on, and her replacement didn't continue that pattern. In fact, she wiped the calendar clean. I had 6 shows booked with her dutiful predecessor, but she didn't honor the shows. She had her own ideas, and much to the detriment of the relationship between the residents and I. So I had no choice but to just wait it out and try to be politically correct and, keep in touch. Figuring out eventually things would change. She would move on, and she did. But, basically 3 years were lost, during which I only played a couple of shows. So now, thankfully, there are those 2 new excellent managers, and I visit the retirement and long-term care sides regularly again, except for COVID, of course. Maple View and Owen Sound also comes in at 27 shows. It's a small, simple, long-term care home, and they're excitedly waiting for their new facility to open this spring or summer. They're joining with their sister homes in the area for a state-of-the-art upgrade. I'm so happy for them. I can't wait to visit. And I have to briefly tell a story about a man living at Maple View that I knew years ago. His name was Curly. He no longer had his namesake curly hair. But Curly is the primary senior for teaching me the value of my music programs. He really put the spark into my work. When I first met him, he was sitting in a wheelchair, slumped. I was told, don't worry about him, he's unresponsive. So I was playing my program, just simple guitar and singing good old country songs and similar. Well, if Curly didn't spark up a little bit, next thing he was tapping away on his Kleenex box, and the staff were remarking about, oh, look at him, how he's come to life. And we had many, many good visits. And he was always humming this song, a melody I didn't know. One day, one of his family members were there, and she told me that the song is called When I Grow Too Old to Dream. So immediately, I went home and I learned it, and I was back about a month later, and I played it for Curly, and the response was unbelievable. And I played that song for him 2 or 3 times each visit from then on. Even Christmas time, I played this song. And one time, I showed up and he wasn't in my audience anymore. Anyway, the manager and I, we talk about this often. She's been there the whole time. Another good, stable continuity and recreation. So thank you, Alison, for being such an important influence on my career. Also at 27 shows and tied at number 7 is the Port Perry Villa. You'll recall I mentioned there was one venue that was considerably more distant. It is this one. The Port Perry Villa, as it's near Peterborough, the city of Peterborough, where I often visit. I have family there. I perform all the facilities around that area. Port Perry Villa, though, they're the number 1 facility in the Kawarthas. But for me to go there for one show, it would be a 3.25-hour drive and another 3.25 home. So I never go that far just for one show. I go and I visit for a few days, play as many concerts as I can. Special also about the Port Perry Villa, I've had family living there, sort of. My brother's father-in-law was a resident, their family hailing from Port Perry. So lots of good memories. Many fun, happy hours were spent there, and it's been the same manager the whole time, a lifer. They're blessed to have you, Kim. Country Lane in the village of Hepworth comes in at number 6 with 31 concerts to date. Another small, simple, long-term care home that I like to visit because it's close to home. But also, I prefer small communities for their easy access and easy parking and minimal traffic getting there. The manager that hired me there for the bulk of those 31 shows, she worked there for decades. She's now retired. Thank you, Barb. I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're doing well. Her successor that I met this summer, she seems excellent as well, and indeed all their staff have been great over the years. And there's one resident there that's been to every one of my 31 concerts. That's pretty special. Cracking the top 5 is my hometown, Hanover Caressant. 32 concerts there. It's so nice to just drive 5 minutes to work once in a while. Normally, my days are like 11 hours long and hundreds of kilometers. I have a unique and personal connection to the Hanover Care Centre. My in-laws built the place, my first in-laws. That was all so long ago now. And I actually did maintenance for them there when I was back in my 20s, and it was my first job in senior living. Even then, I was trying to spearhead music programs. I played some Vivaldi once, classical music, on a ghetto blaster in the dining room, and the residents loved it. Tears of appreciation. And it was something I wanted to do for them, but it was never repeated, sadly. That all dissolved, and years later, though, they got a recreation therapist that hired me for all these shows, 31 concerts, and it's been great visiting so regularly, but the pandemic brought it all to a halt. Haven't been there for about 2 years. Number 4 is Georgian Heights with 37 shows. They are the other Owen Sound facility that's moving into the new home with Mapleview. And Jenna has been their manager for years. An excellent manager, always books me, always pays me. There's a theme here. And they have a really good outside space as well. It's come in handy during the pandemic. It's allowed us to have some socially distant garden concerts. Tied for number 4 with 37 concerts is the Villa in Midland, Ontario. It's a Jarlette home, and it so happens I was a nutritional manager in a Jarlette facility back in my dietary days. They, as a company, by the way, have been my top supporter of my work during the pandemic, supporting my concert videos, hosting me for in-person concerts as able. Thank you very much for that. Although the Villa is the second most distant facility on this list at 141 kilometers from home, I've been averaging there 6 to 8 programs a year for quite a long time. I try to be reliable, and that goes a long way in gaining a manager's trust and getting rehired. Once, though, I was on my way there and I broke the timing belt in my motor and blew the motor just miles from town. Couldn't make it, of course. And there's been a couple times where there were snowstorm cancellations as well, as there's some pretty wild winter weather up this way. It's always been the same reliable manager there all these years. Thank you, Lauren. You should now be in your new facility, I would imagine. You were building your new state-of-the-art home. The last time I was there, it was almost finished. And not everybody seemed excited about the daunting task of moving, but I'm excited to visit. I'm looking forward to it. I was supposed to visit by now, but delays and COVID got in the way. I can't wait to see what your new recreation area looks like. Counting down Elgin Lodge in Port Elgin comes in at number 3 with 42 concerts. It's been the same excellent manager there all of these shows. Denise is second to none for revving up the residents for a festive happy hour. It's such a great place. I had a unique experience at Elgin Lodge. So did Denise. She got engaged during one of my programs. I even caught it on video. Counting down seasons in Owen Sound is number 2 with 43 concerts now. I've outlasted 4 managers there, into my 5th now, I think. And they have an excellent little theater with a nice little stage, sometimes in their spacious dining room. And again, I always get booked, I always get paid. It's a simple formula to success. Consequently, and importantly, I have maintained my relationship with their residents. I've enjoyed some really good friendships over the years there. Grateful for that. I know the residents are too. Number 1 on my top 10 senior living venues list is Errinrung in Thornbury. 62 times I've made the 82-kilometer drive to town. That's one way. It's 164 round trip. So 62 shows at 164 kilometers each. That's over 10,000 kilometers for this one special venue. But for years, they booked me for the last Thursday of every month. 3 managers did that. And now the current manager, we've had COVID. It's been anything but normal. But Errinrung in Thornbury, you hold the top spot. So thank you to the 15 facilities that I just described. It's always a little sad, though, when a local facility isn't a regular venue. Like here in my hometown, minutes away, the Village Long-Term Care. It's where I was actually born. I was born in the hallway there. I didn't fit in right from the very beginning. But in all this time, I've only played 4 shows. Budgets have always been an issue, and I get it to a point. They rely heavily on volunteers, to which I completely agree. Volunteers are essential to any successful recreation department. It's necessary sometimes, though, to lobby for more liberal recreation budgets. There should be enough to accommodate professional programs from time to time. 4 in 10 years isn't really enough. There should be a variety of programs on different days, different times, to attract different residents, I always say. One very special memory at the village. My best friend's dad had his last dance to my rendition of a song he requested, Tiny Bubbles by Don Ho. I learned it for him. Shortly thereafter, he had a leg removed. Shortly after that, he had another leg removed. I think you can see where this is going. Another example of a place I wish I played more often is the facility where I played my first senior living concert. Hannah Walker, John Joseph Place in Owen Sound, where I've only played 3 concerts. They have 2 sister homes in the city, and the 3 of them are in the 5 lowest visited venues in the city of Owen Sound combined. Just 22 of my 171 concerts in Owen Sound are for those 3 facilities. They, as a company, unfortunately don't seem to place as high a value on professional entertainment. I think that's sad for the residents. This isn't a dig at the company, it's just my statistical analysis. I hope one day to visit again soon. I'm thinking I should send printable certificates to my milestone venues as a thank you. Anyone that has reached the 20 or 30 or 40 show plateau, they're deserving. And I wonder, will anybody ever be a 100th show venue? 14 places have had me in for 20 or more times. 4, 30 or more. Just 2, 40 or more. None in the 50s. And then Errinrung, as you know, with 62. Perhaps I should extend this to include the 33 venues where I've played 10 or more concerts. I could bang off 54 certificates, sure. So just something a little different here again, as I have time for statistical analyses during my layoff. I'm hoping to pad these numbers soon, visit you as soon as possible. But until then, be well from Jimmy's Old Time Radio Show.